Krishna 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
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 Om Shri Surabhyaya Namaha
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 Mukam karoti vasalam pangum langayate girim Yatkripatamaham bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Yatkripatamaham bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Hare Krishna Hare Welcome everyone to the morning Bhagavatam class. Continuing to read from Canto number 4, Part 1, Chapter 13, entitled The Descendants of Dhruva Maharaja. Yesterday we did both the second and the third. Today we're doing number 4. Sva-dharma Shilai Purushai Bhagavan Jagya Purushaha Ijamano Bhaktimata Narade Niritaha Kila Sva-dharma Shilai Purushai Bhagavan Jagya Purushaha Iyamano Bhaktimata Narade Nirita Kila Sva-dharma Shilai Purushai Bhagavan Jagya Purushaha Iyamano Bhaktimata Narade Nerita Kila Sva-dharma Shilai Purushai
Bhagavan Yajna Purushaha
Ijamano Bhaktimata Narade Nerita
Kila
Not today, tomorrow. Sva-dharma Shilai executing sacrificial duties Purushai by the men Bhagavan the Supreme Personality of Godhead Jagya Purushaha the enjoyer of all sacrifices Ijamanaha being worshipped Bhakti Mata by the devotee Naradena by Narada Iritaha described Kila Indeed.
Indeed.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
While all the prachetas were executing religious rituals and sacrificial ceremonies, and thus worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead for His satisfaction, the great sage Narada described the transcendental qualities of Dhruva Maharaj. Kindly repeat after me. While all the prachetas
While all the prachetas
were executing religious rituals
were executing religious rituals
and sacrificial ceremonies,
and sacrificial ceremonies,
and thus worshipping
and thus
the
worshipping
Supreme Personality of Godhead
the Supreme Personality of Godhead
for His satisfaction,
for His satisfaction,
the great sage Narada
the great sage Narada
described the transcendental qualities
described the transcendental qualities
of Dhruva Maharaj.
of Dhruva Maharaj.
Purport. Narada Muni is always glorifying the pastimes of the Lord. In this verse, we see that not only does he glorify the Lord, but he also likes to glorify the devotees of the Lord. The great sage Narada's mission is to broadcast the devotional service of the Lord. For this purpose, he has compiled the Narada Pancharatra, a directory of devotional service, so that devotees can always take information about how to execute devotional service and thus engage 24 hours a day in performing sacrifices for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord has created 4 orders of social life, namely Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. In the Narada Pancharatra, it is very clearly described how each of the social orders can please the Supreme Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita 18:45, it is stated, Sve Sve Karmani Abhirata Samshidim Labhate Naraha. By executing one's prescribed duties, one can please the Supreme Lord. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, 2nd chapter, text 13, also it is stated, Svanustithasya dharmasya tam siddhir haritoshanam. The perfection of duty is to see that by discharging one's specific duties, one satisfies the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When the prachetas were performing sacrifices according to this direction, Narada Muni was satisfied to see these activities, and he also wanted to glorify Dhruva Maharaj in that sacrificial arena. Translation again. While all the prachetas were executing religious rituals and sacrificial ceremonies, and thus worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead for His satisfaction. The great sage Narada described the transcendental qualities of Dhruva Maharaja. So the text is making reference to the performance of religious rituals and sacrificial ceremonies. Actually, Vedic culture is arranged in such a way that every single member of the society is given opportunity to perform some seva, to somehow be connected. Just like what comes to mind is Jagannath Puri. I think everyone has been to Jagannath Puri, mostly, except those from California. You've not been? No. Okay. No? How many have not been to Jagannath Puri? My God. Oh, okay. So it's an appropriate example to give. We will all take you to Jagannath Puri right now. Free of cost. So in Jagannath Puri, it's an example of what every village actually is meant to be. Vedic culture is so nice. We know that here in India, traditionally, even now, in every village there are temples, at least one temple. Because, according to Vedic culture, main activity in a temple and main activity for everyone in society is to be connected with Krishna, is to be connected with Dharma. Sva-dharma. The whole verse begins with Sva-dharma. Sva-dharma, what is the meaning of Sva-dharma? Sva. Sva means what is original, natural, what is our original nature. In this case, what is our original duty? Sva-dharma. There are many kinds of dharma, but there's only one specific Sva-dharma. That specific Sva-dharma is existing both on the spiritual level, just like Lord Chaitanya has described nicely, Jiver Swarup Hoy Krishna Nityadas. That is the Swa-dharma of all living entities, to worship Krishna. And Prabhupada makes reference in the purport to another level of Swa-dharma. We didn't choose this verse, it's just coming. It comes all the time actually in the Bhagavatam. This other level of Swa-dharma is on the material level, that one according to nature, according to one's nature, one's tendency, one's natural qualities, which is mentioned of course in the Bhagavad Gita, according to guna and karma. Guna actually determines the karma. Karma means activity. According to guna, we perform, we take up some particular role. Main point that is being made here, which is totally forgotten in modern day society, is that all activities, not only spiritual activities, but all activities in society, including ordinary material activities, are meant to be performed for the pleasure and satisfaction of Krishna. It's nicely explained here. Thus worshipping, prachetas were executing religious rituals and sacrificial ceremonies, and thus worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not for their satisfaction, for His satisfaction. So we forget this actually. Just like if you look at the agriculture sector in society, or for that matter any sector, any area of work, why do people work? To make money for themselves, isn't it? Why do people get an education? So they can have a degree to get a good job to make money for largely themselves. And maybe a small percentage, those who are pious, they'll give to Krishna. Maybe. But actually, we are being told here that all activities, and for all members of society, the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, which, again, Prabhupada explains, the Lord has created this arrangement, this natural system. It is not to belittle or to minimize anyone, or to give anyone less importance. It is simply based on natural tendencies and abilities that are there in individuals, and society is meant to function keeping this primary objective in mind. That's why Prabhupada explains also, I'm sure you've heard or read, how one is considered civilized human being when he adopts this system of varnas. Therefore, what is considered the fourth level within the varnasrama system means Shudra, means civilized human being. Shudra means civilized human beings who also, this is pointed nicely being made here, is also having the possibility, should be given the possibility, as all other members in society, to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but not for his satisfaction, but, so that's also explained by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Bhoktaram jagya tapasam sarvaloka maheswaram suridam sarvabhutanam gyatvanam shantim vichyati. That is how there can be peace individually and within society when we know that we are not the bhokta, we are not the enjoyers, we are not meant to be the enjoyers. And that's when all of our problems begin, when we take that position or develop that mentality of being the enjoyers. Another nice point being made here, main point actually of the text, and also mentioned in the purport by Srila Prabhupada, is that Narada Muni's specialty is to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead on his vina. He's always chanting the glories of the Lord. But in addition to chanting the glories of the Lord, Narada Muni also enjoys glorifying the Lord's devotees. Because the devotees are engaged in the same activities as the Lord. They're engaged in bhakti, in devotion, in rendering devotional service. And therefore, inasmuch as the Lord is glorious and meant to be glorified because of his totally, completely transcendental situation, those who are advanced devotees, those who are serious devotees, they also are meant to be glorified. They should be glorified because they are also situated on that same transcendental platform. And that is also, of course, described how we sing and glorify the Namarupa, the name, form, pastimes, and entourage or associates of the Lord, because they are all transcendentally situated. Prabhupada quotes two important verses also, which further substantiate the point that ultimately samsiddhir haritoshanam, the goal and the objective is to see if Krishna is pleased or will be pleased by our activities. That's why Srila Prabhupada would explain also how if cows are happy, then Krishna will be happy and we will be happy, because cows are also Krishna's devotees. Most people don't think like that, but actually the cows are Krishna's most dear devotees. And there are so many reasons why the cows are so dear to Krishna. Because they render all kinds of service to the whole of humanity, and especially to the brahmanas. When we don't know about brahmanas, or when we don't care about brahmanas, then the whole thing becomes spoiled. Isn't it? Vedic culture is especially, again and again, emphasizing the crucial role of both brahmanas and cows. Go brahmana hitaya cha. We recite this all the time. And this, Prabhupada reminded us on so many occasions, this needs to be kept in the forefront of what the Vedic culture is all about. It's all about pleasing Krishna. We cannot please Krishna unless we please the brahmanas. We cannot please the brahmanas unless we please the cows. There's a direct line, there's a direct, in one sense there's a direct hierarchy. Of course, hierarchy means what is highest. Highest is Krishna, but Krishna becomes more pleased when we glorify the brahmanas, and even more pleased when we glorify and care for and serve with cows. And that Prabhupada would often also refer to that statement, which we have naturally further supports this point also. Aradhanam sarvesham Vishnur aradhanam taram tasmat parataram devi tariyanam samarsanam. Vishnu is the most worshipable personality, but even more worshipable than Vishnu is what is dear to Vishnu. Modern day society is totally in left field, as we say, has no understanding whatsoever of this. And even amongst devotees, it's not always so easy to really have a deep understanding of this point. Because having a deep understanding of this reality means living it also. That's why Vedic culture, as we were in the last 2 years, going from village to village, asking different questions to both leaders and the farmers, people in the village, So one of the questions was in relation to how many cows they have in the village, and what is, how many cows they have personally. And again, so many people would say, my father used to have 10, 20, 30, one family, 30 cows was not uncommon. But now if you find 30 cows in a village, what used to be the standard for one family now is not even the standard in some villages that have less than 30 cows. So this is we should understand, actually, it is a life-threatening situation. It is life-threatening. Life-threatening means that one can die, you know, just like somebody gets a disease. A virus, life-threatening virus. If we don't, if we don't reverse the situation, then we are severely affected. So this is something that needs to be understood. We hear references to this again and again, actually, in the pages of the Bhagavatam. But in order for society to properly function, in order for society to be healthy, in order for individuals within society to be healthy, this principle has to be kept in mind. This principle, which is being mentioned here, of Narada Muni's realization and demonstration that the Lord constantly needs to be in the forefront as that personality to be glorified, and the practical demonstration of how we glorify the Supreme Lord is to be seen how we treat and serve and glorify those who are dear to the Lord. The devotees, the brahmanas in general, sadhus, and especially the cows. Because the cows are the basis of all of these activities that are meant to be taken up, that are meant to be the standard, actually, in the Vedic culture. Here we hear about the standard. The standard was that everyone is meant to be engaged in performing sacrifice, yajna, rituals. When we take away rituals, when we take away sacrifices, of course we know the most important yajna, or sacrifice in Kali Yuga, is the chanting of the holy name. But we can't do that 24 hours a day. We increase that on certain special periods of the year, like during Kartik. But generally speaking, especially for the vast majority of people, they can't do that all the time. But they can do other activities. The activity of chanting should be there. But in addition, all other kinds of activities should be performed for that same purpose of glorifying Krishna. And again, we glorify Krishna by also glorifying his devotees, glorifying and caring for all things that are actually dear to Krishna. So this is like the main defect of modern day society. People don't know about Sva-dharma, what is their original duty and responsibility. And because of not knowing this, we have become extremely destructive. And when we neglect these principles, when we neglect what is dear to Krishna, then naturally all kinds of negative and destructive reactions will take place, as is going on right now. Isn't it? So we'll read the verse again. While all the Prachetas were executing religious rituals and sacrificial ceremonies, and thus worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead for His satisfaction, the great sage Narada described the transcendental qualities of Dhruva Maharaja. Any comments or questions? Yes.
One comment, Maharaj. I also have a question also.
Yeah.
Comment is that many of us don't really realize what you just said, that if we don't have cows, it can become life-threatening. And
You're making the point that, I'm just repeating it so people can
Yeah.
hear. You're making the point that many of us don't realize, although we hear it,
yes,
that if we don't have cows, it can be life-threatening.
yes,
Yeah.
we had a practical experience actually. One person came with cancer. We advised him to drink gomutra with some medicine boiled in that. He kept on saying, I don't have cows, how to arrange, and eventually he didn't do it, and it went on becoming worse. And another patient, she advised the same thing, and he had cow in his house,
Okay.
and he followed it, and it became better.
Yes.
And many patients, we advise the same thing. The first thing that comes out of their mouth is, well, we don't have cow, what to do?
Right. Yeah.
So it is actually life-threatening.
Yes, yes. Okay. So that's a nice, practical,
Yeah.
very practical example. It's personal we call it real life story. Real life story, because your wife is treating persons. She recommends that they take cow products along with other medicines, and people often will say, but I don't have cow and I cannot do it. Those who do have cows and do follow, then they get better results. Yeah. That's why the whole Vedic arrangement is that everybody's supposed to have cows. And everyone used to have cows, even just a few decades ago. Just a few decades ago. It's amazing how, we're already 5,000 years in Kali Yuga, but at least here in India, even just a few decades ago, most people had cows, And because there are cows means there's cow dung and there's cow urine. And most people, even to this day, if we just go out of our SSKBK, walk around just in the front here, actually every house also has a tulsi. This is culture, because tulsi is not only worshipable because she's a devotee, but tulsi is also having many medicinal and other qualities that are mostly unknown to people who are not familiar with the Vedic culture. Yeah. So I was just hearing a few days ago one presentation of a person who has been practicing and teaching Vastu and promoting. Vastu is one of the important sciences in the Vedic culture, whereby we build our home in such a way that it is more in harmony with the subtle laws of nature. Because nature, Krishna's nature, he didn't just create it haphazardly. It was a whole scientific arrangement. where it's unknown today, right? Unknown in modern day society. It's like, we should know that when we sleep at night, our head should never, never, ever be facing north, because the north is north, and our head is also north, and it's like a magnet. Yeah, you put north and north. Yeah. So there are subtle laws of nature which in the Vedic culture, brahmanas would know and would advise people to do things. Most common people did not know so much in detail, but they followed, and to some extent they had some knowledge. Anyway, this person was giving the example that for the last 20 years they've been in different countries advising people how it's important to build your home, to select your land where you're going to have your community or whatever, based on the principles of Varna. Then he was giving the example that there was one time a huge fire, and it destroyed all of the houses except one house that had been built based on Vastu. And when the fire came in front of that house, it just went around it. And the house and all the trees remained intact. Another example, Bhopal. Bhopal? What happened in Bhopal some 20 years back or whatever? 40 years, eh? Okay, long time back. There was the whole of Bhopal. Bhopal is a city here in India. Which state? Madhya Pradesh. The whole city of Bhopal, because there was some leakage, was it? Chemical.
Yes.
Yeah. So many people died. But there was, in the middle, after the whole catastrophe, in the middle of Bhopal, all the other houses, people died, except there was this one house where people survived. And people were wondering, how can they survive? Then they came to know this family had not so long back come from village, and they still were keeping the good habit of putting cow dung around the house. They put cow dung on the floor, they put cow dung around that. Every day they do that, And so cow dung and having tulsi is keeping away radioactivity. It's keeping away all kinds of, just like if you want, people ask sometimes, in my house, I'm troubled by spirits. In Kali Yuga it happens a lot actually. So people don't know that if you keep cow dung, or especially if you keep fresh cow urine in a container in the four corners of the room, if any one of you have this problem, you can try it. Yeah, it is very effective. There are many properties that are there, and in the Vedic culture these were known, and people lived accordingly, and therefore the general health of people was better, it was a more peaceful, congenial atmosphere to carry on there. And also, of course, the main focus was always on pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sva-dharma. They were following their spiritual Sva-dharma and also following their material Sva-dharma. The whole world now is going to hell because we're not following spiritual Sva-dharma, nor are we following material Sva-dharma. And we cannot follow only one and neglect the other. That is also not yet properly understood by many devotees. We cannot simply emphasize one to the neglect of the other. We create an imbalance. It's a simple thing. It's just like one may say, I'm a devotee. I'm just going to chant, Haranam, Haranam, Haranama eva kevalam, kalo nastyeva, nastyeva. There's nothing else. So stop eating, stop drinking. I mean, you're going to die. You're going to get sick. The body is material. The body is made of material elements. So we have to give proper care. You can't just say, the only thing is chanting, so totally stop sleeping. Sometimes people try that for a short time.
There was one brahmachari from Vrindavan came in January.
When brahmachari from Vrindavan
Yeah.
came here?
Yeah, he was on tour preaching.
Okay.
So for half an hour he was just looking around and I was with him, and then he stopped at one place and saying, "You guys are wasting time here." He said, "This is so much distraction for chanting. How do you concentrate on chanting with so much work?"
How do you concentrate on chanting with so much work? So what he was telling basically was that the village of Vrindavan is the worst place to be in.
Yes.
Because you can't think about Krishna. Prabhupada, that's why, one particular purport where it was very striking when I read it, in the Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada explains how, and the residents of Vrindavan, from morning till evening, they work very hard. They work very hard. So there are a number of misconceptions in modern day society and amongst our devotees as well. There needs to be a proper balance, and that may vary from one situation to another, from one day to another, from one individual to another. We cannot imitate, and that's why one needs to have authorities. That's why one needs to have guru, so that individual situations can be assessed and determined accordingly. And what is medicine for one person becomes poison for somebody else. Is that right? Okay. Haridas Thakur was chanting 22 hours a day. If anyone tries to do that, they'll collapse. Any other?
Tomorrow.
Huh?
I had a question, but...
Yeah, keep it for tomorrow. Jai Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Lecture. Jai Sri Prabhupada ki. Everyone should take their ginger before the class and chew it
Slowly.
slowly. Right.
Actually, I'm talking for dry ginger, no matter dry ginger.
Dry ginger.
Dry ginger and black pepper and turmeric and jaggery.
Yes.
Tablets. And jaggery also?